Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Paul O'Neid. I am the founder and lead educator at Coach's Corner University, where we provide continuing education resources for coaches and personal trainers to bridge the gap between knowledge and understanding how to apply their X's and O's to the person in front of them. I'm also the head coach at Master Athletic Performance, where we use training and nutrition as a vehicle for personal development. If you're new to the channel and just starting to follow along, this is video number 2 of my commitment to film 100 videos in 100 weeks at a minimum. And I'm doing this because it's hard. YouTube is something that I've struggled with, and I want to dive in fully and devote my time and attention to it so that I can better provide value. I've been very good at creating relationships in person with people, and I would like an opportunity to hone that skill of creating relationships and connections with individuals in a virtual capacity. So this is going to be a Q&A. I mentor around 30 coaches at the moment, about 5 in a one-on-one capacity and the remainder in a group capacity. And we work on everything from setting up your business from scratch, scaling from wherever you're at to where you want to be. And I focus very much on the customer experience, how well you can create relationships, how well you can communicate, and how well you can decrease your churn so that you have recurring month-over-month revenue that allows you to scale. Now, these questions were submitted to me either through Instagram or within conversations that I've had with coaches, and I thought that it would provide a tremendous opportunity to give value. One of the things that I've learned over my last 18 years of coaching is the answers to questions aren't as important as providing you a framework to ask better questions. The more we can dive into problems, the more we can continue to refine the way that we approach the individual that's in front of us, the better we are going to be able to serve. Some of these questions are about business. Some of them are about client acquisition. Some of them are about the mental game. But it all comes down to, how do we create a systematic approach? Because ultimately, the goal isn't for you to copy all of my answers. It's for you to actually learn how to audit your own business, audit yourself, and ask better questions. I'm actually pretty cold right now, so I'm going to go put a hoodie on and we'll get into the Q&A. I get a ton of questions on a weekly basis from coaches, personal trainers, even some clinicians on business, on training, on nutrition. And I figured I would just do a quick business Q&A with the top 5 questions that were asked in the last little bit to give you guys a little bit of, different types of content. So I'm just going to jump right into it and we'll see where it takes us. I looked at these questions once when I wrote them down, so you're going to get some off the cuff answers. Dude, I'm really struggling right now. I know what I need to be doing: consistent content, better systems, following up with leads, but I just don't do it. Like, I have a great week and then I fall off completely. Is it just a discipline thing, or am I missing something? So this is probably one of the most common questions, or like series of questions that I get, is I know what I should be doing, I just don't do it. And there's a few ways that you can go about answering this question. One of them boils down to, I think you're just trying to do too much at once. I think you don't have a system for implementing each thing in its appropriate vertical. And I don't think you have a way to identify what's working and what's not. So if we go through it, like consistent content. Yes, if you want to have an online business, you have to exist in the online space, and that means producing content. But at the core, you're a coach, you're not a content creator. Where I go with this is, you need to develop some content pillars. So having 4 to 5 big topics that you speak on. So that could be training, nutrition, mobility, mindset, lifestyle, like these big buckets. And then within each of those buckets, now you can get a little bit more granular with the topic. So in training, you can go with training to failure, hypertrophy versus strength training, rep ranges. And now within each one of those smaller topics, you can think of, 5 to 10 ideas within those topics that could be individual pieces of content. Once you've done that brainstorming, it's really just a matter of throwing a dart at the dartboard, picking a topic, and making a video and actually doing it. And that comes down to scheduling. So the typical strategy that I provide to the people that I work with is you need to book an appointment with yourself every day for an hour. Now, that's 5 hours a week dedicated to content. Some of those hours are going to be dedicated to brainstorming topics. Some of those hours are going to be dedicated to scripting your content or planning your content. And then some of those hours will be dedicated to filming. My suggestion will be to film while you're doing stuff you already do. So most of the content that I film is either at my desk here, in the garage when I'm doing cardio, or in between sets when I'm training. It's just the easiest time to create content, and it's authentic to who I am and what I do on a daily basis. So that's a system that you can develop. Is I'm going to book a meeting with myself for 1 hour a day to focus on content. Following up with leads, I mean, do you want to make money? Like that's my, whenever someone is like, oh, I can't keep track of all my leads. Well, you don't have an Excel spreadsheet? At the end of every day, whenever anyone messages you, at the end of every day, book a 20-minute meeting with yourself to write down all the leads that you had, where they contacted you, and then what the outcome of that conversation was, and set a time to follow up with that person. Then in that 20 minutes that you scheduled each day, you check your spreadsheet, you update your spreadsheet, and then you follow up with the people who need to be followed up with. Meetings in your schedule and living by your calendar is a surefire way to be more productive and be more directed in the things that you do. If you book a call with a client, you're not going to miss that call with the client. You're not going to be late. You're going to be present. You're going to be engaged. So why don't you make that same promise to yourself? Now, I have a great week and then I fall off completely. The reason you have a great week and then you fall off completely is because you can only grind for so long. And what I mean by grind is work relentlessly hard with no structure or no end goal. Whenever someone says, oh, I'm just grinding right now, that's a clear indication to me that you have no idea to what end you're working and you have no systems around your time management. Dead giveaway. So what I would suggest here is, okay, let's make a schedule that has all of the things that we need to do within a week in it. Let's allocate the appropriate amount of time. And then let's also bookend all of these appointments with kind of like check-in sessions with yourself. One of the best names I've ever heard from this is a post-call rundown. Is like after every call, book 5 minutes with yourself to audit a call. So it's just like a flex period after a call. Have flex periods after all of your work periods to assess your productivity. Have all of your flex periods after your meetings with yourself to assess what was done, what needs to be done, and then determine if you're moving meaningfully towards the goal. And I think that is the final piece of this is, do you know what your goals are? Have you clearly and objectively defined what you're working towards? So if the goal is more content, better systems, more leads, then you should be tracking how much engagement are your posts getting? How often are you posting? How many conversations are resulting from those posts? How many DMs are you sending per day? How many DMs are you replying to per day? How many sales calls are you booking per week? And then within that, you've got top of the funnel, you're tracking engagement. You've got middle of the funnel, you're tracking communication. And then you've got bottom of the funnel, how many sales calls you're booking. And based on the ratios between those three numbers, you can determine where you need to allocate more energy. If you don't have a clearly defined goal, you can't re-engineer the process or reverse engineer the process. The reality is, you need to be meaningfully working towards a goal. And if you're just working mindlessly, you will not be fulfilled and you will not be able to be adherent and you will not be able to be consistent in the long term. So you know exactly what you need to do. The problem is you haven't created a schedule in which you're able to do all those things within a week consistently over time, track progress, and make sure that progress is heading towards the goal that you've set for yourself. If you're having trouble with this, I would suggest, an accountability buddy, maybe a friend in the industry, or, shameless plug here, but hire a mentor, hire someone who can help you implement these systems, run them, audit them, and refine them so that you don't waste time just spinning your wheels. Uh, Hiring a mentor was probably something that I wish I did way before I did it. And it skyrocketed my business. And I will always continue to work with a mentor in some capacity. And I think the best coaches in the industry do as well. All right, next question. Throw in a little nicotine. It's 8:30 at night, so your boy's getting tired. Okay, I'm grinding my ass off, training clients 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. some days, and I'm still only at like $4,500 a month. People keep telling me to just charge more, but like how? I can't just go from $50 a session to $200 a session without feeling like a fraud. What am I not seeing here? Okay, so number one, I would highly not suggest that you go from $50 a session to $200 a session, because that is a 400% increase on your price and no one will pay it. What I would suggest is doing some market research. So if the goal is, I can't train any more clients, I don't have more time. In a personal training setting, this is true because you're trading time for money. In an online coaching setting, you have your price point, you have the number of clients, and you have the time allocated per client per week. So there's more than just price point that you can play with here. You can increase your prices, and then you can also improve your systems so that you can serve more clients in less time. So your time remains constant because you add clients to compensate for the amount of time that you've freed up by better systems. You then charge more for those clients and your income scales proportionately. One thing that I like to do with a lot of my personal trainers is implement something called a hybrid practice. When you're personal training, you are being paid for the time that you spend with the client, nothing more, nothing less. The problem is a lot of personal trainers will try to go above and beyond and provide their clients services outside of the hour that they're being paid. So if you are being paid $50 a session twice a week, but then communicating with your client for another hour per week, you're essentially halving your income per hour per client. So with a hybrid practice, you charge a monthly recurring fee for access to you and programming and or nutrition outside of the hour that they're paying you for your in-person time. What this allows them to do is have some autonomy and attend the gym when you're not there. It provides you oversight over that time because they'll be sending you videos, and it allows you to impact the other 23 hours in the day when they're not with you. So for the client, it's a tremendous added value. And for you, it's a way to scale your income without necessarily adding time to your daily schedule. Now, when it comes to the discussion of increasing pricing, I'm a big proponent that an increase in price always needs to come along with an increase in service quality. So this could be adding features to your coaching. This could be increasing the amount of access your clients have to you. This could be reducing the friction that your clients have with following the plan. Things like implementing a community feature to your app where clients can interact with one another. This could be a change in how you do check-ins. This could be a change in how frequently you communicate with them, how frequently you review videos. Anything of this nature fits the bill. Also include more educational resources for your clients. All of these things also decrease the time that you spend, because if you start creating educational resources, then you spend less time answering the same questions all the time. So a system solves a problem that frees up time, but also adds value for the client. That is the gold standard. Switching from written responses to Loom responses, you can talk faster than you can type. And in this case, the client gets to see your face, hear your voice. That creates a better connection. They feel a more deeper relationship with you, which is going to increase retention, increase buy-in, and improve the service quality to the client. So it saves you time, makes it better for them. When you pair a price increase with when you pair a service increase with a change in price, it is much easier to swallow for the client because they see, I am getting more. It makes sense to pay more. One of the things I am an advocate for is acting in good faith to those who trust you, which means whenever I roll out a price increase, It's always a price increase for new clients. And then I offer my existing clients a grandfathered rate. So if I was in this, I'll give a perfect example. So a couple of years ago, my rates were about $400 a month, and I raised them from $400 a month to $525 a month. Now, when I, excuse me, when I communicated that to my existing clients, it was, hey guys, we're adding a ton of features to our coaching. At this point, we were transitioning to an app. We had a new community feature, and we were doing monthly calls, which we still do. So what I did is I said, hey guys, we're doing all of these value adds to the coaching practice. As such, for all new clients, I'm going to be charging $525 a month. In good faith, for your trust in me, I am rolling out a price increase for my existing clients that will be to $475 per month. Rather than bumping them up to that new price point, I offered them a slight discount on that, which makes it a lot easier for them to swallow. It's not as large of a price increase. It's not a 25% price increase like it is for the new clients, but it is still an increase in price, but it's being coupled with a improvement in service quality that far exceeds the increase in price. So that is a strategy that you could use. I will say that if you're charging $50 a session and you try to go to $200, you will lose a lot of clients. A good way to look at this is if I'm increasing my prices by 25%, as long as I don't lose 25% of my clients, which if you do it properly, you will not, you net neutral your money and you save time. In most cases, what will happen is you might lose one or two clients, but because you've increased the price point for everyone, all that does is it raises your monthly revenue and allows you to fill those spots from the people who left with new, higher paying clients. All right, next question. Honest question. I hope all questions are honest. How do you know if you're actually ready to scale or if you're just chasing growth because you're avoiding fixing the fundamentals? I keep thinking about hiring someone or launching a program, but part of me wonders if I'm looking for a shiny object. Oh, this has been on my mind a lot lately because I meet a lot of coaches who think they want to scale. And when coaches think I want to scale, what they really think is I want to make more money, which and there's nothing wrong with that. But truly scaling means increasing the amount of people that you serve, the amount of money that you charge, and the amount of money that you make. Scaling does bring with it additional workload and additional complexity. So an example of this is a coach who potentially has a maxed out roster, has great systems, and is essentially just capped on the number of one-on-one clients that they can handle, transitions to having maybe a group offering that they can do one small bit of work for a large amount of people and collect a more reasonable price point for a larger number of people. So they're trying to play the numbers game. But what this does is it increases the amount of different work that you have to do during the day. So there's more task switching and there's more organization required. One of the things that I think about when I think about scale is I think about reinvestment into the business. If you're trying to scale, one of the best strategies that I would recommend is hiring a virtual assistant. Teaching somebody how to manage your inbox, manage your schedule, do all the tedious tasks that ultimately do not require your expertise to do. Yes, it will cost you about $1,000 a month, but if that $1,000 a month gives you back 10 hours a week, how much money could you make in those 10 hours? You're essentially paying somebody $250 a week for 10 hours of your time. And I can guarantee that you're making more than $25 an hour when you're providing your services. So the trade-off makes sense. One of my favorite books to read when it comes to hiring an assistant is called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. I read it while we were on vacation in Puerto Rico. And shortly after that, I hired my first virtual assistant, and it was phenomenal. It saved me so much time. And word from the wise, if you free up 10 hours a week, only use 5 for business. Take that other 5 for yourself. The other question here is, are you scaling just to scale? What are you chasing? Why do you need to make more money? What goals do you have that are maybe not fulfilled by the current business that you're operating. I think a lot of coaches would stand to benefit from establishing a business that is sustainable and reliable, meaning that you have recurring month-to-month revenue that varies very little, and evaluating whether your needs outweigh the amount of money that you're making. In this industry, there is always an opportunity to make more money, but with more money comes more time. Are you willing to trade your time for that money? And that is a big question mark, especially if you have children, especially if you're married, especially if you have other responsibilities in your life. You need to make sure that your priorities are in line. So, are you scaling just for the sake of scaling? Are you scaling for your ego? Are you scaling for external validation from your peers? For the most part, if you're making $8,000 to $10,000 a month, you're in a really comfortable position financially. That is, unless you start scaling your monthly fixed expenses, buying a new car, bigger mortgage, that sort of thing. If you're scaling because you're truly driven by impact, and this is for me where I decided to scale because I knew that I wanted to impact the industry in a larger sense. I not only wanted to help my clients, but I wanted to help coaches help their clients. So I looked at it as an opportunity for me to figure out how to further impact the industry and what sorts of services I could provide that fit into my mission, vision, and values. And that's when Coach's Corner was born. So as long as you're scaling with the intent to provide value and you're not scaling for some sort of external validation, I think your head is in the right place and you just need to be organized in the way that you do it, aiming to reinvest the money that you make back into the business to help free up your time. Time is your most valuable resource. Now, the key part of this question that really kind of stuck out to me was chasing growth because you're avoiding fixing the fundamentals. You will not be able to grow sustainably if you do not have good fundamentals in place. You will run yourself into the ground. You will end up working more hours and ultimately making less money per hour, but you'll feel like you're doing more because you're doing more. Is that the validation that you're after? I would say that until you have a very comfortable roster of one-on-one clients that is sustainable over time, you've done the work to improve your service quality, improve the efficiency at which you deliver those services, and you're charging a price that is in line with the value that you add, then you can look to scale. But until you have those fundamentals in place, in my opinion, scaling is going to absolutely ruin your life. And if I would probably go so far as to say that if you don't have those fundamentals in place, you will be unsuccessful scaling. You just won't be able to make more money. You won't be able to serve more people. You won't be able to do it because the fundamentals are the base of the pyramid. If you don't have the fundamentals, you can't grow. All right, next question. I've spent 5 years building my business around what I thought I was supposed to do, but now I hate it. My clients drain me. My content feels fake, but I'm scared to pivot because all this is working financially. Have you ever had to blow things up and start over? I haven't had to blow things up and start over because when I started, I knew what I wanted to do. So when I started in the coaching industry, I was competing in powerlifting at a very high level. So I was coaching powerlifters who wanted to compete in a high level. And then as my life has changed and as my personal growth has developed, the type of client that I am coaching has changed. It's changed because you get back what you put out. And if I'm only putting out stuff that is in alignment with my personal values, my journey, my ideal client, which ultimately is me 5 years ago, and it should be like if you're running a business in coaching, unless you're in some random niche, your client is probably just you from 5 years ago. If you're speaking to that person as yourself, you won't be in the position that this person's in. If your clients drain you and your content feels fake, it's probably because you're not being yourself. It's probably because none of your personal values are in alignment with the way that you've operated your business. You're probably not charging enough So the quality of client is very low, their buy-in is low, their adherence is low, and they're big headaches. All the clients that I've ever had that paid the least were the biggest headache. And then on top of that, it's working financially. Is it working financially though? Like, are you making the money that you could be making if you just started to pivot the things that you were doing? I don't think you have to blow things up and start over. I really don't. I don't think you have to blow things up and start over. What I do think is that you need to figure out who you are, what you stand for, and who you want to coach, and then start being yourself. You might get some pushback initially because that's not what people are used to. But at the end of the day, you'll start to attract people that fill your cup. You'll start to attract clients that you enjoy working with and who actually want to be part of what you're doing. If you're taking on anyone and everyone with these like 7-week challenges or 75 hard or whatever the fuck you're using as promotional strategies for your coaching just to get people in the door, you're going to hate your business. You might be able to do it for a little bit, but that's not a sustainable way to do things. That's why whenever I see coaches, hey, 5 clients, 5 spots available, closing soon, first come, first serve, whatever, trying to create this sense of, sense of urgency with their sales and looking to just get people in the door. That's a dead giveaway that you are headed for ruin. That's a dead giveaway that your business is not doing well. And it's a dead giveaway that your business will not be able to flourish in the long term. Someone who builds a business that they feel like they have to blow up and start over, they did it the wrong way from the start. The right way to build a business is to truly figure out who you are, what you value, and what you prioritize, and then make sure that you speak and present yourself as who you truly are. If you are not an expert in a certain field, don't talk about it. If you are not wanting to work with Gen Pop clients, then don't produce content for Gen Pop clients. Don't run sales and promotions that devalue your service. Start to do things that actually align with you. You don't have to burn it down. You just have to find out what it is you truly want. I know that was a really long-winded answer, but I see it all too often where, a coach will come to me and they'll have a roster full of clients that they hate working with. And then I'll go look at their content and it is just this caricature of who they are. I'm like, yeah, no shit. You have a roster full of clients you don't want to work with. It's because you don't know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, you're not going to be able to help anyone, not truly in any capacity. This question is good. What's the difference between doing hard things that make you feel stronger versus just being a workaholic who's headed for burnout? Because from where I'm sitting, both look like working your face off, and I can't tell which one I'm doing. I think this comes back to the first question where I talked about, the true goal, defining what success means to you. Success means to me that I'm doing what I want, where I want, when I want, with who I want. If I'm able to do that, then I am successful. The cool thing about my journey is that I achieved success a long time ago. For a long time, I've been able to do what I want, when I want, where I want, with who I want. I just bring my laptop with my wife and I'm good. But that isn't what keeps me going. That isn't what keeps me motivated. What keeps me motivated is continuing to serve, continuing to impact, continuing to use this business as an opportunity to be a better version of me. So the difference between doing hard things that make you stronger versus just being a workaholic, burnout occurs when there's a gap between the work you're doing and where you want to go. So let's just use the word happiness here. So you have burnout on one side, you have happiness on the other side. Happiness to me is moving meaningfully towards a goal. So if you have a defined goal and a path in which to achieve that goal, you will be happy, you will be fulfilled. So you'll be able to, work as hard as you need to. One of my favorite quotes in this regard is, when you have a strong why, you can tolerate any how. So it's really easy for me to wake up at 4 a.m. It's really easy for me to sit at my desk at 9 p.m. recording a podcast. I am working hard towards a goal. I'm not burning out. And I would know I burned out twice. I burned out in 2014 when I was working way too many hours in a job that didn't value me. It was supposed to be my dream job. I was a head strength coach at a major university, but I wasn't working meaningfully towards a goal because I didn't have the support of the administration. When I left that occupation, moved into the private sector, I burned out again in 2019. I had a whole bunch of personal struggles happening at the same time. And the way I was operating wasn't in line with who I was because I didn't know who I was. So I didn't have that clearly defined end goal. So all the work I was doing was just work. It was like being in a hamster wheel. So when I think of someone who's just a workaholic heading for burnout, I think of someone who doesn't have a clearly defined goal. I think of someone who is just working for the sake of work. I think of this person in the previous question who is just serving clients for the sake of serving clients, not actually helping the people they want to help. I think of somebody who is, unstructured in their work, so they feel like everything takes forever to accomplish. I feel like someone who doesn't have the systems in place to manage their time and set boundaries appropriately. So, doing hard things that make you feel stronger, to me, that's just moving meaningfully towards a goal because the gap between where you are and where you want to be is going to be fucking hard. And it's going to be a lot of fucking work. But when there's meaning in that work, there is way less friction. And I think friction is what leads to burnout. And it's a great analogy because friction creates heat, heat makes fire, fire burns out. All right. Got a little bit hot towards the end of that, so I took the hoodie back off. That's it for the Q&A. If you got value from this, it's not because I gave you all the answers, but it's because that you have the ability to ask better questions. You're curious, you're willing to look at your business honestly, and I don't want you to just grind. That is not what I want you to do. I want you to move purposefully towards a goal. So if you are ready to stop flying at the seat of your pants and actually start building a system and a business that works for you, please reach out. I'm more than happy to help in any capacity, whether you leave a comment down below, you visit me on Instagram at pauloneed_MAP, send me a DM, or you can email me, paul@masterathletic.com. All those ways to contact me are going to be in the link in the description below. I want more questions. I enjoy doing these Q&As. I enjoy diving into the way that I think about problems so that I can help you think differently about your problems. And it's time that we get to work. So let's all raise the bar together. Let's make coaching a better industry with more integrity so that we can bring more people into this. I look at this as an opportunity to fortify the industry. The industry is very fractured. There is a lot of people in it, but there are very few coaches. And I want you to be one of those coaches. So thank you for following along. Video number 3 is coming next week. Hopefully you're getting some value, and let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and I'll see you next week.